Did you know that for this movie, Stephen Lang wore contact lenses that greatly restricted his vision, particularly in low light? The other actors in the scene taking place in the dark wore lenses that made them look like they had dilated pupils, but also greatly restricted their vision as well. Don't Breathe is always a great horror movie I like going back to just for just the sheer tension that's in it and the great acting and the storytelling, and this was my introduction to Fede Álvarez. I know he's done a bunch of great work, and this movie really makes me want to watch more Fede Álvarez stuff because I really enjoyed his style of directing and his approach to the horror genre. So for this movie, I have 3 things that I liked, and my last thing is definitely my favorite. First thing I liked about this movie, the story and the tension. The story, a lot of horror movies have the same kind of storyline, plotline for the most part, but I think what differentiates Fede's directorial approach versus many is I always like movies that start out at the end and then we go full circle all the way back to that point again. I've always found that kind of storytelling, story approach to just be really intriguing. It definitely shakes it up a little bit more. It makes you a little more invested rather than just having something that's go from point A to point B to point C. This is more like point B to A and then back to B. So a lot of horror movies also do this. The way I viewed this movie's plot was circular. So like I said, in the beginning of the movie we start at the end and then we go all the way in a full circle and then ending right back where we started from. But also the characters in this movie, as they're trying to get away from the blind man, it's almost like they're running in circles. Like, you think they're gonna make it, and then something happens, and then boom, they're right back to where they started from. You think you're gonna make it, then boom, they're right back to where they started from. Every little move they make, every single time you think they're gonna find a way out of the place, the blind man pulls them down, the blind man gets to them, and they're back to square zero. So it just continually goes into a circle and a circle and a circle to a point where it almost drives you insane, doing the same thing over and over again, or having so much hope that you're driving yourself insane. Just like you can see the door, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, yet you can't seem to get there because there's an obstacle in your way who will do everything in his power to stop you from getting there. There's barely any blood in this movie. Most of this movie is built upon the tension that is built between the blind man and the robbers in there, and how Fede uses all these different sounds and lights and pretty much anything he can think of to make the scene more tension filled. I think one of the strongest parts of this movie is really, if you think about it, nobody in this movie are good people. You have the robbers, they may be teenagers doing it for fun, doing it for whatever reason, but they're not good people. But you find yourself cheering for them at times, you find yourself feeling bad for them at times, empathy, sympathy for them, you feel the regret with them. And then the blind man as well, he's a man mourning the loss of his daughter, right? But at the same time, he kills somebody, he keeps someone captive. You feel for the blind man because he's trying to get over the loss of his daughter. He's just trying to live his life. And then you have these dang teenagers who break into his house, steal all his money, and try to take away his hope for another daughter. So it's such a great job of, like, you feel bad for the villain. Stephen Lang, phenomenal actor. Perfect casting choice in my opinion to play this kind of guy. Another little detail I like about the blind man, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when they're in the basement, the lights turn off. You know, when he grabs Alex by the throat and then you just like focus on his eyes. The lighting and like how the light makes his eyes look, it reminds me a lot of like a shark's eyes or like an alligator's eyes, where when they're going in for the attack, their pupils just turn hollow. They're empty. There's like no emotion behind what they're feeling. All they're doing is a natural base instinct of survival, of killing or being killed. Nice little detail that's added, nice little touch to this crazy blind army vet. And then that goes into my favorite scene, and my favorite scene is actually one of the most disturbing scenes in the movie. I don't condone anything that happens in this scene, but the reason why I like that scene where Rocky's captured, the blind man is explaining to her, he wants another daughter, you killed the woman who was carrying my daughter, so now you're going to be the person to give me what I want. And he proceeds to do all that really nasty, creepy stuff, and Rocky's fighting for her life, and I think in that moment, There's just something about that scene. It's just like, it's such a huge, like, what the heck moment. Like, what am I watching? What's wrong with this guy? Like, then that's when you really started to feel for Rocky. Like, she's just a kid. She doesn't deserve the fate that's going to happen to her. But, like, I just remember the first time I saw that scene and seeing that he had, like, sperm in his refrigerator and then he throws it on a pan, fries it up, puts it in a syringe, and, like, he just, like, sticks it into a woman. Like, who even thinks like that? What kind of messed up stuff is that? Like, that scene right there really made me fall in love with Fede Álvarez's horror style, because it's one of those moments where you will not forget it. That scene will be burned into your brain for a long time because of how twisted you get to see, you know, the blind man really is and how he's dealing and coping with his grief. Utterly disgusting scene. So I highly recommend, if you haven't seen Don't Breathe in a while, I highly recommend check it out again. It's on Peacock, and I'm sure you can find it on other streaming sites as well. So for Don't Breathe, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 Mudflaps. Remember, leave me a thumbs up and drop in the comments below. What's your favorite Fede Álvarez movie? See you soon.